you for joining us, dude. I just had to make him laugh.
Oh my God.
All right. Thank you for joining us. I am your host, Andrew Wright. Over here is my co-host, Jason Foster.
Or Cody.
Or Cody. That's like, whatever. If you haven't watched that video, go watch it. Just type in Boston guy freaks out, finds a fish, and it's the best video you'll ever see.
It's gold
on
man, I'm telling you.
Anyway, forget all that.
Back to sports.
Yeah, back to sports. We probably should talk about sports. Cody, the Clippers lose again in the first round.
Yeah.
It's the 5th time in 5 straight years that they lost in the first round. If you're the Clippers, are you officially blowing up this franchise? You're gonna push the restart button, or are you going to build on what you have? Mainly talking about like keep Chris Paul and possibly like either Blake Griffin or DeAndre Jordan.
Well, okay, so I'm always someone in my life that's thought of the future and ahead. I mean, you can think of immediately right now, but there's always whatever happens after right now. So if you kept Chris Paul and let's say you kept DeAndre Jordan, you kept JJ Redick, you even found a way to keep Blake Griffin, which I wouldn't. It's not that I wouldn't keep him because he's not a great player. I just maybe might want to change that piece out for somebody else. For example, if you were going to keep the team you have now constructed the way it is, maybe bring in Carmelo Anthony, find a way to work out a trade to send Blake Griffin over to the Pacers to bring over Paul George, which would really piss off the Laker fans. But Clippers got to do what they got to do. However, me, if I was the owner, I would just hit the reset button. Here's why. You've got enough talent on your roster to get back some draft picks. You're going to go through 2 years of just poor seasons, which is not different because just 10 years ago, you guys were literally the laughingstock of the NBA outside of, the Grizzlies at one point and the Cavaliers before a guy named LeBron James. I think he's going to be a bust though, but anyways. But you still got Chris Paul, who's 31. A team like the Spurs that usually stocks up on draft picks would love to maybe take him over, considering Tony Parker is probably going to retire because he just ruptured his quadricep that was reported today as an injury that he had yesterday. You've got Blake Griffin that's only 28, DeAndre Jordan only 28. JJ Redick is 32. He's a little older, but he's a great perimeter player. So a lot of teams that like to stretch the floor to shoot the ball, they would love to have somebody like that on the team. Even though he'll be a free agent, you could probably work out something with a sign and trade. Chris Paul, I think, is the one you're going to get the most value of if you can sign and trade him and send him off to a team and get some prospects, maybe some young pieces. A team that comes into mind that might need someone like him would be, like I said, the Spurs would really love to have him. I'm thinking also of an Eastern Conference team, maybe like the Bulls would love to have him if they can't keep Rajon Rondo. So if you picture Jimmy Butler, Chris Paul, and Dwayne Wade, that three-headed monster right there, that'd actually be a really good contender. They'd be a little older, but I think they've got some good veteran presence. I mean, shoot, the Knicks would love to have him. Especially if you're going to get rid of Carmelo Anthony, which probably is going to happen. But anyways, I would hit the reset button if I was the Clippers. Get as many prospects as you can, rebuild through the draft, give yourself about a good 3 or 4 years before you're relevant. And what you do is as you can show that you can evolve and just say, okay, it's time to move on, it's time to develop some other pieces or at least rebuild, you're going to be able to attract some free agents because you didn't have a bad name like the Lakers did the last 2 years with their front office problems. You don't have any front office problems right now, but you might just want to hit the reset button. And Doc Rivers, I would just say you can keep him as a coach. He's a great coach. Just take away his front office privileges to be able to make deals and stuff like that, because I don't think he can do both. Because, for example, him paying his son, who's on the team, all that money, when really they could have used that money to get a better role player. Not saying that he's not good. He's just not what they needed. Like a better swing player to help out Jamal Crawford coming off the bench. But I would just hit the reset button. Short story.
I wouldn't.
Okay.
And the reason being is we've been through this so many times. Not necessarily with the Clippers, but with any team. I mean, everyone goes, well, if a coach. Les Miles comes to my mind because it's the most recent. What happened with Les Miles is he wasn't winning national championships, but you're winning like 10 games, maybe 9 at the worst, and that's great. I mean, Fresno State would take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Right. And so it just gets to a point where people just expect if you're not winning, then you're done. You got to go. And it's not the right attitude because Doc Rivers is a great coach. So, and he's won an NBA Finals, a championship. So it's not like he hasn't been there before. It's not like he doesn't know how to coach there. He does. He hasn't had the players to do it. Now, I know a lot of people would argue, well, he's had Chris Paul this whole time. He's got DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin. We know who Blake Griffin is. He's not going to be the most... He's a fantastic dunker. We like to watch him dunk. What does he do on defense?
No, and his post game isn't really developed the way it should.
Exactly.
He's in his fifth or sixth year, I believe, but he's not... For being 6'10 or 6'9", I think that's his height right there.
6'10".
6'10". He doesn't have a great post game. He's a great, pull up in front of you, and he's a great, transitional dunker when you're on a fast break. But that's not obviously working. And to continue your point, I can see why you'd want to keep what's going on because it's working, but try to keep it going and push over the top.
I'm okay with them getting rid of Blake Griffin. I understand you could get something back for Blake Griffin.
Right.
There are still teams that would say, I would kill to have a Blake Griffin. I mean, the Lakers right now, I would kill for a Blake Griffin because we really don't have that dynamic player. I love Julius Randle. If you had Blake Griffin, you got a couple of guys who could do some damage.
Right.
But that's beside the point. I'm not really going to go into that. A DeAndre Jordan, you could get rid of him, and I'm okay with that.
Right.
He's a great rim protector, no question. He's a great dunker. He's not. He can't shoot. He can't shoot a layup. Good Lord. God forbid. I'd rather him shoot a 20-footer.
Yeah.
Jeez. You know what? You got to keep Chris Paul. And what's nice about keeping Chris Paul is this. Guys still want to play with him. There's guys that want to play with him. You're right. Getting a Carmelo Anthony, and I heard this. I told someone this about Carmelo Anthony. I was like, oh yeah, what if you brought Carmelo Anthony? Like, okay, so you're going to bring a guy who can't win in the playoffs, and you're going to bring in another guy who can't win in the playoffs. And I go, okay, I get what your point is, but Chris Paul is a dynamic passer. Carmelo Anthony is a dynamic scorer. When you put that together, that's better than having to alley-oop constantly. Who else do you rely on in shooting?
Right.
You have J.J. Redick. He's not going to be 100% every time.
No.
And Jamal Crawford, he's become more ISO basketball player than anything else.
Right.
So actually, yes, I believe that Carmelo Anthony will help them. Do I think they're going to do it? That's another story for another day.
Right.
Paul George, he said he wants to go to the Lakers. And I think if he wants to go to the Lakers, he could get more money with the Lakers, and I think he could help build a team. That's going to be up to him.
Yeah.
Does he want to win right now? If he does, then yes, go to the Clippers. If you want to go to your favorite team as a kid and help them win and be that main guy, go to the Lakers because you're going to do fantastic things over there.
Right. I'm not disagreeing with you at all with all those points, but here's why I think that you might want to think about hitting the reset button, or at least not start the process where you empty out house, but you get rid of some of your older players. And I would say Chris Paul and Blake Griffin they both have to go, and here's why. If you can trade with the Phoenix Suns right now, Chris Paul, and you would get, let's say you give them Chris Paul and 2 second-round picks back-to-back drafts, and you can get in return Devin Booker and Eric Bledsoe, would you do it?
I would say no, and it's not because I think I'm basketball god, because I'm not. I don't like Booker.
Really?
I think he's a great scorer. I don't like him on defense. I don't think he's the best of passers like a lot of people say he is. I think he's just a really cool scorer, and he's fun to watch every now and then. I'm not the kind of guy who likes scores, so if I had my choice, Booker or Paul, I'd want Chris Paul because I know he's going to pass the ball. He can shoot when he needs to. He does all the right things. He's a decent defender. I like Chris Paul better than Booker.
But again, it's not. Are you thinking that in the aspect of making the playoffs continuously and immediately, or just to get some young pieces in there to get younger and then continue to build the team?
Well, see, because I don't like teams going. I don't like teams going backwards. And what I mean by that is teams go, well, we're so close. All we need is one more win. And then they're like, oh, shoot. Okay, well, let's do it. And then they get so close again. Oh, shoot. But if you look at the Clippers, they haven't made those moves to get up there. Mm-hmm. So if they made another move, if they got a small forward, if they got rid of a player and added someone, right, I think they could do it. But they don't. They stick with what they know. And I understand that to a point. That's why I'm saying get rid of Blake Griffin and add someone who can shoot. That's all you... I mean, honestly, if they had another guy who could shoot other than Chris Paul, we might be talking about a different story between the Clippers and Utah Jazz. But because they lost, we're talking about the Clippers blowing up. Mm-hmm. You're going way back. You're going to have 2 or 3 years where you're just awful. And I don't like it. And it doesn't guarantee that you're going to be better in the long run.
No, but here's why, as today's NBA, with all these players that are now able to make their game more versatile, I think it'll work better than it did way back when. Because I think you may be still in the mindset of where it's the old school basketball that's not played anymore today. Because we got to be realistic now.
Just call me old man Rivers.
Yeah, Uncle Drew over here. Because realistically now, basketball, your 5 could essentially be rotated in as your 3 and handle the ball. Where before, like, you would never see Shaq dribble the ball past half court. He wouldn't even touch the ball until he was in the key, honestly. And a lot of these other centers from back when we were younger and watching it, the game's just developed more now. You've got centers now, such as like Carlstown David, or not,
Carl Anthony Towns.
Exactly, that kid. He can actually pull up from 3 and actually had a higher shooting percentage. In my opinion, it's not like the old NBA. Players are now so versatile now. Here's why. The Boston Celtics, when they had the big 3 with Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, and Paul Pierce, when they first got together, they won the championship and beat the Lakers. Didn't make it in the second one, but got in there in their third year together against the Lakers and lost, though. But each year they're together, 5 to 6 seasons, but after that, they started declining, and at one point, Boston just said, okay, we have to break this up. So they shipped Garnett and Paul Pierce over to Brooklyn, and then Ray Allen moved on to Miami. Rajon Rondo was really the only one to stay there for the next 2 to 3 seasons until he moved on elsewhere. But look at what happened with Boston, though. They had to go backwards to get where they're at now, to where they were the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Granted, in my opinion, they were a weaker 1 seed, but nevertheless, they are now up 2-1 on the Wizards. And they've got Isaiah Thomas, who's completely balling right now, and they've gotten themselves in such great position that started way back when they got rid of all those older players to kind of go backwards to go forward. They now have a projected, they have the greatest chance of getting the number 1 pick now for what they had to give, what Brooklyn gave them in return, who Brooklyn was basically god-awful. So that's why I see, like, if the Clippers hit the reset button, there's so much opportunity to where they'll be terrible, but there'll be some ways to get back. And I see Boston as a team that did it before. I don't think that they'll do like what Philadelphia is doing, where they're still crappy after 10 years of this whole rebuild, and they haven't done anything really to prove it other than one player with bad knees. Which, have you heard that before from Philadelphia? Yeah. So,
you stole my point of, I was going to say, I worked for Boston. Boston, it turned out okay. And then when you have a head coach like Brad Stevens, who's really a game changer in coaching, that helps. But when you kind of look at Philadelphia, they just focused on, we're just going to keep losing and losing until we get all these draft picks. Yeah, you have all these draft picks, but they keep getting injured. Mm-hmm. It's not going... I mean, it got a little bit better this year, and everyone was excited, but I keep looking at the record going, is everyone seriously still talking about the Sixers? Like, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah, talking like if they made the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it made me... The thing I think of it with the Lakers... Mm-hmm. Was when the whole Shaq thing and Kobe Bryant feud happened, and Shaq left. It took a while for the Lakers to finally rebuild, and finally they were like, let's just go and get a couple of free agents, and we'll go through the draft. And that's what they did, and they finally got Pau Gasol, who was really helpful. Lamar Odom was in his prime, and that helped us out a lot. Meta World Peace finally matured and played really well for us. I mean, we had a decent team, and then we had Andrew Bynum, who was good and then
He
bad.
was good, but he had bad knees, and who we trade him to? Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Thank you for taking him.
Philadelphia. They took the pick. So, I mean, anyway, I'm not so big into let's just implode this whole thing and restart. I think if you're going to do anything, if you are going to restart, you need to keep one player. And I feel like if you are the Clippers, your best chance of holding a franchise and holding tickets and getting fans in the stands, Chris Paul's your best option.
Yeah.
Unless you can trade him for like a Paul George or a Carmelo Anthony, then you have another chance at that. But if you're going to trade Chris Paul for Carmelo Anthony, that's even worse because you're getting older. But I did want to mention this. I believe that JJ Redick is gone.
Okay.
There's no way he's coming back. I think he wants out. And honestly, he would fit perfectly for either Golden State, Cleveland, Houston, or San Antonio. Yeah. So I think those 4 teams would fit him really well, and I think he wants to go to a team that's actually going to pass the first round.
I think the Spurs and Houston would be the top ones. I don't think Golden State needs any more shooters because they got Kevin Durant, they got Klay Thompson.
That's if Kevin Durant comes back, though.
Well, I mean, he's got a 2-year. I think the second year is an option. I don't think he's leaving because I think it's a win-win for Golden State. They don't win the championship, he's going to stay to redo it. And I think if he does win it this year, I think he's going to stay and try to get a repeat. I think he's going to live. I think he's going to do as much as he can to live out all 2 years. The only thing about that is then he'll be in the driver's seat to after 2 years he can go wherever he wants, or he can get max dollars now from Golden State. So it'll be in a win-win. However, I don't think Golden State will put up the money because they'll got Steph Curry to pay, which they'll have to decide who's more important. And then even if you do pay both of them, who are you going to let go first, Draymond Green or Klay Thompson? So, anyways, I think a lot is in perspective, but I think if Chris Paul does go, it's either Houston or San Antonio. And I think JJ Redick. I think San Antonio would benefit from him more because they desperately need shooters.
I'll throw out even the Lakers, and I know you'll probably disagree with it, but when you've been in the LA market for so long like he has, and he was supposed to be a Laker that year that he became a Clipper. So he might be able to go, and that actually, if the Lakers could do that, that would really attract Paul George to go there, even more so than it is already.
You know what surprised team, actually, and I think of that he might go to, because he's 32 now, so maybe he's on the tail end of his career. He might go home to North Carolina to the Hornets. Because they're a couple of veterans away, and they might need. I mean, they got Kemba Walker. If you got JJ Redick on the outside,
Kemba Walker. I don't know. You'd have to. I don't know how you'd do that, but yeah.
Jordan would find a way.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is Drew Code Sports Talk, and also please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, which is also Drew Code Sports Talk.